worry about tomorrow. Let them get by today and go do this, do that. But we understand that everything that we go through, because we're at this point now, but you sitting here, you're at a point at which you know that there's a purpose in your pain. You know that the cycle of recovery includes relapse. You know, this is just a reality of where that we know the power of choice. Because at the end of the day, we can choose to do things or we can choose not to do them. So, where do I find my peace, or where do I find peace? That's very important. That goes to us having our own set of coping mechanisms. That goes to us being able to have our own level of problem solving. When you're able to answer that for yourself, then it's easier to help somebody else find that niche where that, you know, we're gonna have chaos, we're gonna have confusion, it's gonna be there. A lot of people think that peace is the absence of that totally. Peace is only the absence of confusion when you have your own solutions. So if you have a means of not falling victim to the chaos, if you have a means of not going and indulging and being able to get it done without the smoke, without the beer, without, you know, going up in temperament, going down, without having an emotional disposition of being bitter because you're not drinking, or being sour because you can't go and roll up and smoke. So we have to see that niche in ourselves before we can even get there with a person in a community-based approach. All right, do we have any add-ons, any questions before I move on?
Peace for me is the lack of chaos.
Okay.
That's how that's my definition of peace.
Okay. All right. Everybody else good? I guess so. All right. All right. This diagram, we're gonna constantly bounce back here, but this diagram is where I want to go to person-centered. All right. When we look at wellness, you also have 8 dimensions of wellness. This is a valuable tool in our field when you look at the 8 dimensions of wellness, because you know you got the stages of change, you got a lot of different methodologies, but when you look at the 8 dimensions of wellness, it's on your sheet. It gives you more tools to work with in a community-based approach, because you're getting the totality of the person and their stressors, their struggles, also their solutions. So when you look at the 8 dimensions of wellness, this is the right order. I just put these in place because the reason I wanted to put these in aspects of, if you're dealing with a person, most of their stressors are going to be in these areas of the 8 dimensions of wellness. So intellectually, I'm going to deal with my environment, my finances, and my occupations, but also my environment, my finance, and my occupations are going to be the source of my stressors. So this group, we'll deal with more mental stressors coming down to emotional, spiritual, social, and physical. Those more they're going to be interchangeable. So the way I feel is where my energy is going to be spiritually. The way I feel may dictate how I respond to you socially, or how I respond to the world socially. How I feel emotionally is always going to display physically. But in a community-based approach, when you're coming in contact with the peer, these components are going to get you your sources of support, because that's the completion of the being. So when you're looking at environment or environmental, the first thing you're looking at is that environment healthy? Is my living environment healthy for my recovery? That's also a question you have to ask the peer. Is your living environment supportive or healthy for your recovery? Because a lot of times we may be dealing with relatives and staying with a relative, and that's not healthy for our recovery because of the stressors that's produced by family, the pressure that's produced by family, the expectations that's put on us by family. So a lot of times we may feel, oh yeah, I lost my place, but I'm at a family member's place, so I'm good. But then when you go into that environment, whatever goes on in there, you have to deal with on a daily basis, also with the peer pressures that come with that environment. On another hand, you may deal or go to a residence with a client, with a peer, and you're looking around and you see beer bottles all around the building. You see paraphernalia in the hallway. You smell it. It's not a healthy environment because it's surrounded by triggers. So when you walk into that environment, you already know whether they're able to go without drinking, and alcohol is their DLC or their drug of choice. It's still reminders and temptation surrounding them because there's bottles everywhere. Everywhere they walk, they see, and then they may see one that was their choice. It might have been their brand. And you're wondering why they relapse when their environment produces aspects that lead to relapse. Also, they may not smoke marijuana, but the whole hallway smoked out. They constantly smelling it, constantly coming into that, constantly tempted because there's people in the hallway smoking. What that does is it makes them want to go back, or psychologically, you know what, you don't even know why you're thinking about going back to your drug of choice, but yet you're walking into that environment and it's not healthy for you to give you solutions and other thoughts that are productive outside of using. So we also have to look at environmental norms and environmental hazards when we're out in the field and we're dealing with peers. Emotional, recognizing triggers, what causes me to lose my focus. Emotions is the most powerful aspect of recovery. Getting upset, feeling sad, depression, I mean, we could go into all these aspects of recognizing your triggers in an emotional standpoint that may lead you to not just use, but to lose everything you don't gain in the sense of you don't have a good job, you've been doing good for a year or two, because it does happen that way too. Relapse doesn't have a time frame on it. Emotions can overpower your thoughts, and at the end of the day, you don't relapse and you don't know why, but getting mad at work, getting mad with a spouse, getting mad because things are going on with the children or something happened in the neighborhood, and you took one step to another step, and at the end of the day, you don't lost your focus. And now you're at the point to where the substance has become the nucleus of your eyesight. Once again, it's all about me satisfying that pleasure or that urge. Once again, I don't act it out of my character. So the mental challenges that I thought I had under control, I don't show it out again. Or I don't went and almost put my hands on somebody or verbally abuse somebody. And then that wears your conscience down and becomes another trigger in itself. Financially, we are all in this room, in this world knows that financial aspects of an individual are very important when you're supporting them and with yourself. So where is the stability? Where is the balance? Where do I find balance financially? Because when we're in active use, we find ways to support the use. We find ways to get money to do whatever we are chasing to do. But when you clean up, you have to have a stable and solid aspect of financial stability. So everybody aren't able to get benefits or a check. So that question has to come in, and where's your solid source of income? These are questions that apply to self, but we're going through this in a community-based approach because this is the dialogue that we need to have with clients, with peers, to hold them accountable and to be able to support what their goals are and be able to make goals that count. Because when you're making a goal or establishing a goal with an individual and it doesn't deal with their breakthroughs in their everyday life, then guess what? They're just gonna say, yeah, all right, that's the goal. But when you're able to make and establish goals that deal with things that they need to gain to have a better life, then it matters more to them. So dealing with financial stability, everything is over. Everything goes back to intellectual